Ahoy, mateys. Welcome aboard my podcast. I am Jason with Jay's Paradise Travels. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. In the past, I had done an episode that was called Cruise Talk, and I talked about cabin staterooms, kind of broke it down a little bit. It was more of an informative podcast just to kind of give you an idea what to expect when it comes to different cabin staterooms. Cruising is my niche in this business in the travel industry. That's what my expertise is in. So I wanted to periodically talk about cruises and different things, not just my experience with them, but just to kind of inform the listener, inform the audience of different things. If you're new to cruising or haven't done one before, can maybe help with it. It's something that I love to do, and I would do every single month if I had the opportunity, the time, and money to do it. Um, so that's what my expertise is in. So I wanted to continue to talk about that in this episode. Now, this episode, I wanted to break down, I guess you could say, the pricing of a cruise, the cost that goes into it, so that you can maybe get an idea if you're thinking about going on a cruise, what to plan for as regards your budget, and what areas of your money where it's going. uh, and hopefully by the end of it, you'll get a better idea of what you're exactly spending your money on. Um, because when you see a cruise advertised, you're going to see a price, right? Um, Whatever it is. And you might just think of it as at face value. Oh, here's a cruise that says, let's say $500, just for instance. And that's true. But you might not know all the details around it. So it's not exactly just $500 and here's your whole vacation for $500. There's other things that are involved in it. And that's what I want to be able to talk to you about. So you have the information you need to make an informed decision if you want to go on a cruise. Once again, I love cruises. I would go on them all the time if I had the ability to. But in this episode, I just want to be able to explain that to you, and hopefully that'll help. So the first part of it, let's say you see $500. That's what it's showing. That is the cruise fare. One of the main things that you're going to pay for, amongst many different things that are required, you have to pay for them, the cruise fare itself. What does the cruise fare include? Well, it's in the name of it. It's the cruise. So on a cruise ship, there are many things that are going to be at your disposal. The entire ship itself, right? You're going to have that. You're going to have a lot of staff on board. You're going to have a lot of food that you're going to have access to. You're going to have a cabin that you're going to get to sleep in. You're going to have entertainment on the ship. You're going to have, I don't gamble, but there's casinos, right? Every decor, every piece of dining ware, silverware, every staff member, all of it costs money to put on that ship. And then it costs fuel to get from whatever port you are to the next port and back and forth. And so all the expenses that are going to be incurred on a cruise line, on a cruise ship, is part of that cruise fare. It's something that everyone's going to have to pay for. Um, and what's interesting now, I'm going to probably reference the $500 just, for an example, right? You might see something that says, $500. You'll have to look at the fine print or the not maybe not necessarily fine print. I mean, I guess it could be, but just what's it all going to entail? In a previous podcast that I talked about cruises, I had referred to the different cabin types, and depending on where you are, might be a different cost for the cabin. Um, Sort of like real estate, location, location, location. Same with on a cruise, depending on where your room is at, might be a better location. It might not be a better location in the eyes of most cruise goers and the cruise line itself. So you're going to pay a little higher price for uh, depending on the cabin that you get or where it's located. And just an example, an interior room that does not have a view or a balcony is going to usually, generally, be less expensive than a room that does have a view or a balcony. If you're lower on the ship, that's generally going to be less expensive than if you are higher up on the ship. So the $500 that you might see more than likely is going to be the very cheapest room that they're going to be able to give you. Something that's probably the lowest on the ship, as well as an interior room. It's not going to have a view. You're going to be further down, but that's probably one of the more bottom line prices. They're going to advertise that to you because that price is going to look appealing to you, and you think, okay, there's a vacation, $500. And if you're okay, depending on where you're at, if you're okay with an interior room, if you're okay with being at the bottom, if you think I'm not going to be in my room very often, it's just a place to sleep, I'm going to be out having fun, I'm going to be out partying, going to the beach, whatever, cool. Take the lower price, and that's fine. That's how they're going to draw you into to be excited about the cruise. You're still going to have that entire cruise ship and all its amenities and all the food and entertainment, everything is going to be at your disposal for $500. The same exact cruise ship, the same exact food, the same exact entertainment is going to still be available for the person who's paying $1,000 for the balcony, right? It's, you know, but if you feel like when you put your head down at night, you want a balcony, or you want to be able to go to your room and look out on the ocean, pay the extra, yeah. So, anyways, I feel like I'm getting a little off topic with that, but that's what the cruise fare is. The cruise fare is going to be you and that cabin that you're going to be assigned to, and and then just it's going to encompass all the rest of the other stuff that's on the ship. You're not paying extra for a ticket to go to the theater. You're not going to pay extra to go to the buffet. It is all part of that cruise fare. Now, some have asked, I've heard this question before, do I have to pay for my children if they're a certain age? Yes, you do. Uh, some people get in their heads because, like airlines, you can have like a lap child. Sometimes you can go to a sports game, have a lap child, it's a baby, and you know they're able to get on for free. That's not the case with the cruise. Any soul on board is going to pay, even if they're a wee little baby. They're still going to be cost effective with having that wee little baby on board the ship. There's still going to be food that needs to be there, whether or not they're eating it or not. It's still going to be there. They're still got to clean up after the room. There's still going to be costs associated with having that soul on board, no matter if they're a month old or 100 years old. It's still going to be cost associated with it. So yes, every single soul on board is going to need to pay the cruise fare. If that answers your question about your children will be an expense. To kind of explain it a little bit further, though, as regards the pricing when it comes to a cabin. Now, generally, there's going to be at least two people that they want in a cabin. Every cabin is going to have, for the most part, two beds in it. And because obviously they want to make as much money as they can, it is a business, you know, um, they want a soul in every bed, as well as an income, a revenue for each person in that bed. Uh, so if a room has two beds in the cabin, they want two people in it. Other cabins might have more. Some have like a pull-out couch that could fit a third person. Some have these upper beds that pull down that can fit a third or fourth person in the room. Again, they want to maximize their revenue when it comes to the cabin. When I say they, I'm referring to the cruise line. So a person, if you're traveling by yourself, you think, well, I don't have a spouse, I don't have a child, I don't have a friend, I want to go on my own, or I'm going with friends, but their families, I'm just by myself, I have nobody to room with. That's okay. You are able to do that, but they're going to charge you what they call double occupancy. So they're going to charge you for two people, even though you're only one. The reason being is they need to make money on that bed, whether it's being used or not. So if you go by yourself, you are able to do that. They're not going to be like, no, you have to have a second person. They will let you do it, but just be aware the cost is going to be double for you. It's going to be what would be paying for two people to go on the ship. Generally, the first and second guest, because that's what they're doing, usually based on double occupancy. You'll see that wording. If you look at the wording at these advertisements, you'll see based on double occupancy. So, for instance, that $500 one, if you have two people, they're each going to pay $500, right? If it's just one person, you're going to get charged double occupancy. It's $1,000. It's $1,000 either way, right? 500 for one, 500 for the second person. That's $1,000. If it's just one person, it's $1,000 because it's doing based on double occupancy. I'm going to refer to this again, this scenario or this example a lot. Um, Now, depending on who is going, that $1,000, if it's for two people, it might be if it's a husband and wife, for instance. Obviously, they're kind of combined. It's kind of within that family. But if it's one person and a whole, and a roommate, two friends that are doing it, well, now they can split the costs. If it's $1,000 between two, now you are only paying $500. If it's just your family and it's just you and your wife, let's say, now it's basically $1,000 for you because you're paying for both people. And normally it is, and I'll say this when I did work directly for Carnival, we always had to make sure that we were being clear with people that we were saying it was an average price based on two people in the cabin. And I say that because once you get a third person in there and a fourth person in there, those costs actually are not as high as the other first two guests. So for instance, if $500 is for guest one and two, guest three and four might be 150 and 75. Add that all up, whatever that may be. Actually, let me redo that. 500 for guest one and two, which would be 1,000, and then you've got, let's say, guest three is 250 and 200. Let's say 200. Yeah, 200, and then guest four is 200. So altogether for that entire cabin, you're looking at 1,400. Divide that by four people, and then that's the average price per person of the room. Again, depending on how you're going to be going about it, if it's your entire family, it probably doesn't make a difference. The family head's probably paying for everyone anyways. But if you are splitting it up amongst four people, then each one, I mean, you could do it where guests one and two are paying the higher price and guests three and four are getting away with it if guests one and two are nice enough. But generally speaking, to make it fair, all four are probably going to split the cost, uh, four ways. I bring that up because you might see advertisements that show that third and fourth guests. So whoever guest one and two is, if this isn't your family and you're splitting it amongst four friends or however you're splitting it, um, guest one and two are going to be the ones that are technically getting the higher price. Guest three and four are getting a lower price, and you can do what you want with that one. But that just again, this is just informative. So you know what's all entailed when it comes to the cruise fare itself and when it comes to pricing. Um, if you can get lower fares, through a deal, great. Now you know. If you see it, if an advertisement is there, $500 for the cruise, now you know. And sometimes maybe that $500 is for something nice, like an ocean view or a balcony. It all varies. Cruise lines, they have a whole department that works on pricing, and as time goes on, usually because it's a supply and demand thing, I like to always tell my clients about this. It's a supply and demand thing. So there's only a certain amount of rooms, each one holding a certain amount of bed, meaning that once that is someone books it, that bed is now occupied. There's the revenue for it. That's it. And as time goes on and people continue to book, that inventory goes down. Let's just say for sake of illustration, there's 2,000 beds on the ship. Again, just illustration. Once 1,000 people book it, now we're down to 1,000 rooms. They can't oversell it to 1,500 people. They only have 1,000 left. They can only do that. So so that demand is getting higher and the inventory is getting lower, they start adding up the prices. So usually you will see prices go up as time gets closer to the sailing. Occasionally you will see something that goes cheaper, and and there could be a reason for that. Maybe um, near the end, there was a cancellation, a group canceled, and now the cruise line has let's say 20 rooms that this party just canceled on, and they need to get rid of it. So they're going to mark it down just so they can get rid of it. Get something out of those beds, right? You might be able to find um, a deal like that. So a lot of times I do get asked, about deals like that. They do happen. It can happen. But I will say this: if you're looking specifically at a certain date, time, cruise line, itinerary, whatever, if you're looking at something specific, then doing that strategy is a big gamble. There's no guarantee that a last second deal or a last minute deal is going to happen. Um, there's a saying I've heard, and when it comes to sports, hope is not a strategy. For example, if you've ever heard, if you're into football at all, if you ever heard of the play, the Hail Mary, generally it happens at the end of a half or at the end of the game where the quarterback is just throwing it up to the end zone. He's praying that one of his receivers catches it. It's a touchdown. Doesn't happen very often that it is successful. One out of, I don't know, 50 maybe, something like that. I don't know the percentage. That's why they call it the Hail Mary. When I say hope is not a strategy, you do not base an entire game plan on doing that the entire game and thinking you're going to win the game. It is a last second, last ditch effort to maybe, hopefully, have it successful and you pull off a victory. It is not what you base an entire game plan on. That's why I say that hope is not a strategy. If you want the last minute deal, it's possible, and if you have uh, extra time on your hand, if you're retired, great. Something pops on your desk, you see this ad or you see a deal and you have the ability to do it, go for it. Awesome. But if there's something specific, like I want January 1st, I want to be on Carnival, going to the Bahamas on the Carnival of Magic and yada yada yada, and you're very specific about it, it's possible, but there's no guarantee that there's going to be a last minute deal. Never a guarantee on any of that. Keep that in mind. And I guess I bring it up because I do hear about that when it comes to deals. And deals do come across. People ask me all the time, you get a deal that comes across your desk, let me know. Okay, great. Um, Cruise lines are doing things all the time. Norwegian, I always constantly see them talking about, when it comes to pricing, the first guest, second guest, 75% off. Margaritaville at Sea, which I've gone on, I've seen some great deals from them. There are deals that can be had, uh, no doubt. Those spectacular last minute deals can be had too. I've got to take advantage of them before, um, which I appreciate. So it's not that it's not there. I just, again, hope's not a strategy. If there's some specific, I have time off in April, the third week of April, I have vacation. I want to go on a cruise. Let's see what happens. It could happen, it could not. The best thing to do, if you have a specific time, a specific itinerary, or whatever, something specific you want, book it as far advanced as you can. That will give you the best rate normally. Um, and right now, a lot of cruise ships are going out full. They are. It has become extremely popular, and so you don't. I mean, you see them, you see the last minute things here and there, and sometimes you don't. Other times, through travel agencies, like the bigger ones, will buy up a lot of space, a lot of rooms, and then they turn around and sell them. Well, they might at the very end see like, hey, okay, we've got this amount left that didn't get sold. Let's go ahead and mark it down so we can at least make something on it. So again, it is possible to have a cheaper cruise, and if you come across it, great, take advantage of it because it's a fun way to take a vacation. The cheaper you can do it, the better. But if there's something specific you want, something a specific time, specific itinerary, whatever, just my advice: do it, guarantee it, ahead of time as far as possible. And these itineraries do come out years in advance. I mean, you could definitely, and because they're being booked so much, like even next year's, this year's full, next year's getting full, and go on. And I think I saw Celestial already talking about 2027. We're in 2024 right now at the time of this recording. Um, so you can definitely book these things in advance, And what's really nice is they allow you time to pay it off too. Usually you have up until maybe a few months before the cruise to be able to pay everything off. So if the grand total is a couple $1,000, let's say you get the $500, you got four people, again, $2,000 is your thing. They're giving you time to pay it off, up until a few months before the cruise line. But we'll get into the totals here a bit. That's the cruise fare. The cruise fare, once again, it's going to be your room and everything that's going to be associated with being able to be on that ship. The food, the entertainment, the staff, the decor, everything that's on that ship, right? It's helping paying for all that. The gas or the fuel, all of it. All right, so that's the cruise fare. That is a mandatory thing everyone has to pay. If you somehow are able to find a deal, awesome. Maybe it'll be lower. Maybe you won an event, or you won something. You won a free cruise. Okay, great. Then you don't have to pay for it. But for the most part, you do have to pay for it. The next thing, and this is even if you do win it, you probably have to pay for this too. Everyone has to pay for this as well. A non-negotiable required item, I guess you could say, are the taxes, fees, and port charges. That is something everyone has to pay as well. The government is going to get their money from any transaction. The government is there, right? They're going to take their cut. And so the taxes portion of it is also going to be something that as the buyer, you're going to have to pay as well. I don't know if I need to go on and elaborate what taxes are, but if you buy something, you have to pay taxes on it. That's going to be part of it too. As regards to the fees and port charges, so port charges are something that all cruise lines have to pay, and guess who they're putting that bill towards? You guys, right? They're going to have us pay them. For every time a ship is docked in a port, they have to pay. Just what they do. It's how the country, the government is getting their money on that as well. And in addition to taxes, they're also charging them to be there for however long they're going to be there for. Airlines, I believe, do the same thing when they, put their plane in at the gates. They're paying for that time. Um, so cruise lines are paying, and that this will be something that fluctuates as well based on the country. So if you go this again just for an example, the taxes that are in the Bahamas might be less than the taxes that are in Mexico, which might be less than the taxes or might be more than the taxes than Panama. It varies based on the country. But either way, the cruise line is going to be paying for being there, and they're gonna put that payment on the guests. So part of the mandatory things that you have to pay. So far, we got the cruise fare, taxes. Everyone's got to do it. The port charges. They kind of bundle that all up in addition to the fees. So whatever fees that are associated with doing all this, they're bundling all that up. Taxes, port charges, and fees. It's not like three separate things that you're getting billed for. It's one thing, and then they add it on top of the cruise fare. It used to be now. I think this has kind of changed recently here. It used to be, let's say, like that $500 that we refer to, an advertisement for $500 per person, and then you go to check out and you realize, okay, now let's say it's two people instead of just $1,000. You think now you're looking at a $1,500 bill. What happened? Um, if it's 500 and 500, it should be 1,000. Why am I paying 1,500? They added the taxes, port charges, and fees on top of it, right? Nowadays, though, there was something that recently got adjusted where now they're going to advertise it with the taxes, port charges, and fees included in the price. So instead of seeing 500, now you might be seeing 750 per person. Might look a little higher, might not look as appealing, which is true, but to me, I like it because now I'm not trying to tell you about a price and then, oh, by the way, here's some more you have to pay on it. As upfront as I like to be about things. If you ever deal with me, I do like to be upfront about things and just be honest. Hopefully, you've been listening to my podcast. I've been upfront about things here too. Um, but so I like the fact that when I'm looking at that, I don't have to think in my mind, calculate, okay, that's a great price, and then think, all right, it's gonna be higher than that. That's gonna be um, the price as it is, both those things included. So I kind of like that change, to be honest with you. Maybe you do too, maybe you don't. I don't know. So that's going to be there. Cruise fare, taxes, port charges, and fees. That's all going to be mandatory thing. One more thing that's mandatory in a way is what's called gratuities. Um, the staff on board, they get a contract. They're on board for months on end. They're away from their families, and they're pretty much working hard every day for you. They get some time off. I think it's kind of limited, but they're working very hard. And they do get paid for doing it. How much it is, I don't know. Never asked. Never really told. I don't think they're maybe at liberty to speak about their pay, and that's okay. That's a personal business, how much you make and all that. But whatever it is, I generally it's more than what they could make maybe back in their home country, and that's why they're doing it. That's why they're sacrificing their time away from their family and friends so that they can make that living, send it back to them, help their family and friends out with it. With that being said, uh, the cruise lines, just like anything else, like being at a restaurant or whatever, uh, there's gratuities involved to these people. It's taking care of the people who are taking care of you. Um, and it can be done a few different ways. Majority of the time, if you didn't know about this, didn't think about it ahead of time, just at the very end, when you get your bill, you would see the charge. And what it normally is a certain amount per person per day. Just for sake of example, let's say it's an additional $10 per person per day. I know it's pretty much higher than that by now. This is just an example because trying to do math off the top of my head it might be a little easier this way. So if you're on, let's say a five day cruise, and it's an additional $10 per day per person, so $10 per person. There's two of you. Let's say an additional $20 combined for both of you per day, and there's 5 days, so there's an additional $100. If that cruise that we referred to that was $1,000 or 1,500 with the taxes and port charges and fees, 1,500. Now you've got an additional $200 that you're going to have to pay for gratuities. Now at the end, uh, now you're totaling it up to be $1,700. So when you see that $500 advertisement, this is why I wanted to explain it. It's not just $500. There's your entire vacation. There's other things involved. Now we're at a total of 1,700 when you include all these things that are necessary. Again, you could leave it alone, and at the very end, they're going to bill you for it. Generally, when you book a cruise, you have a credit card on file that is going to be used, and at the end of it, they're going to charge you whatever you bought, and just part of it will be the gratuities. You do have the option, though, for most cruises, not all of them, but for most cruises, that you can pay for those gratuities ahead of time and not worry about it at the time of booking if you want to, or even if you booked early in advance and beforehand, you have enough time, you decide to do it, you can. It can be done before the cruise is. That way you don't have to worry about it getting a bill at the end in addition to whatever else you bought. Or some cruises let you do this. Again, not every one. Some let you do it where you can just like defer that, take the charge off the account. I am literally going to hand these people money, and I'm going to just give them cash tips. So, you know, you can get some envelopes, maybe a little thank you note, put some money in there. There you go, Mr. Captain Steward. Thank you so much for your help this week. Thank you for doing all that you did. Here's, whatever, however much you give them. And that way, you control how much you want to give them, and you control who's getting what. And I say that because those gratuities do get split. So they get it, and generally gets uh, divided into different people, like the maitre d', the head waiter, the wait staff, your cabin steward, the assistant, the bartender. There's a bunch of people that are doing different things here to make your cruise nice. If you never used the bartender, for instance, or you never even spoke to the maitre d', maybe you went to the buffet the whole time. or whatever. Maybe you didn't, you went to the dining room once but didn't have a wait staff the entire time. Maybe you feel like, I want to just give the money to the people that served me directly. So again, you can, if the cruise allows you to do it, you can defer that, take the charge off, and give cash tips, and then hand them to whoever you want to hand them to. So with that, it can be very easy to you know take it off and then not pay anybody anything in order to save yourself money. Don't do that. They are working hard, and it's not like they're rolling in dough. They're making more than what they would back in their home country. But you know, uh, be nice to them. They're sacrificing a lot of their time away from their family. They're working super hard, long days. They deserve their gratuities. So if you do decide to take it off, be sure to still treat them right. If not, you have the option to a lot of times to pay for it ahead of time, get it out of the way, don't think about it, or you could just let it go until the end. It'll just charge you. I've done it all three, in all honesty. Doing it ahead of time. If you're something like me, I like to get the negative stuff, I guess you could say, out of the way first and enjoy the positive stuff. I've already had to pay for the cruise, the taxes, port charges, and fees. Um, if I get the gratuities out of the way, then I know at that point I could go on the ship and literally enjoy this vacation and literally not spend another dime if I didn't want to. Those are the mandatory things that have to be paid. Once you've cleared that hurdle, once you've conquered that mountain, you're good to go the rest of the way. Now, it's not to say that there's not other things that you'll spend money on. So if we're going back to that example, right, the maybe two people, $500 each. You got the taxes, port charges, and fees, gratuities. Now we're up to 1,700. All right, cool. You look at your budget. I've got 20 $2,000 to play for this, to enjoy on this cruise. All right. Well, 1,700 of it's already taken. You got $300 left. What do you want to do with it? Now you've got some options. One of the things that are optional, highly recommended, not required, highly, 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 highly recommended, would be to purchase vacation protection. A lot of times cruises will have their own that you can get through them, that they're partnered with whatever insurance company, and that you get it through them. Um, or if you decide to do it through another company that will offer cruise protection, or not cruise, but vacation protection, you want to shop around? Sure, whatever. By all means, it is not something that is required. You can still do this trip if you don't do vacation protection, but having vacation protection, um, it is a peace of mind knowing that if stuff happens, you're going to be covered, right? Uh, and it can cover a lot of different things. It might not cover every scenario in the world, but it's going to cover quite a few different things that you might not even think about. For instance, God forbid something happens to you when you're on an island somewhere, right? Let's say you get sick or get injured and you go to the hospital. So I have insurance here in Michigan and in the United States. I have insurance. It does not cover me in Mexico. If I go to Bermuda, or if I go to Panama, or if I go to, you know, South America somewhere. It doesn't cover me in these foreign areas. I have vacation protection and I have to go to the hospital and I get a big bill. Guess who's helping me out with it? Vacation protection. God forbid something happens and I get injured and I have to be airlifted out of there by a helicopter. I am not covered by anything here in the United States with that. If I get vacation protection, it covers it. And then God forbid that I die or someone in my party dies while out there. I know this all sounds morbid, and it's very rare that anything happens, but we live in a world of just you never know, anything is possible. Something bad like that happens, once again, you're covered with these type of things, whether it's moving the body or being airlifted out, whatever. It all helps with that. So hospital stays, doctor visits. Uh, because a lot of times when I've talked to people about getting vacation protection, I hear, "Oh no, we're for sure going to go," because they're only thinking it's going to cover you if you have to cancel the trip for some reason, which it does. It does, if you get a flat tire on the way and you miss your flight or the flight, it covers things like that too. It does cover pre-trip, but it also helps with during the trip. And even some, not all, but some even cover you post-trip, which is pretty amazing if you think about it. You get back and something happens while you're back in Florida or whatever, they'll cover you there too. Not all of them offer that, but I've heard of maybe one or two. So it's peace of mind to have it. It does cost a little extra. Usually it's if you get it through the cruise line, um, a lot of times it'll be maybe a percentage depending on how much the cruise itself is worth, because that's what they're covering, or they're covering that amount. So a smaller amount of maybe a $2,000 cruise might only be $100 a person, where if someone is spending $10,000 on that cruise because they've got a huge suite and whatever, they're covering the insurance is covering a lot more. It's going to cost them more for that insurance. Um, Definitely recommend having. I definitely recommend having it. Again, it is not required. It is not forced on you, but why gamble it if it's in the budget? If you can do it, I definitely recommend it. So that's one of the optional things. That is something again would be not forced on you. And if you did decide to do it, it's something you get beforehand. That is not something you get on the ship. That is before your vacation starts. And it only really activates too once you pay for it. So let's say, okay, let's go back to the scenario now. $500, right? We've added up to $1,700 of the cruise fare, taxes, port charges, and fees, and gratuities added ahead of time. We're up to 1,700. And just for sake of example here, let's say the insurance, or the not the insurance, yeah, you can call it insurance, vacation protection, whatever. It's all the same thing. It's all insurance. Different cruise lines will have different ways that they um, call it. It's all insurance, right? Travel insurance. But let's say that that's an additional 150 a person. So that's $300, and all in total now we're at $2,000. And remember, I mentioned that you don't have to pay everything always right up front. You can, by all means, pay it all off as soon as you can. Great. But let's say you're booking now, and the cruise don't leave for another 2 years, right? So you got almost 2 years to pay it off. You have up to a few months beforehand, and you just take the deposit, which I'll get into in a bit. Um, that's cool. You got the deposit, but that vacation protection has not been activated. It is only activated once you pay it. So if it's $300, all you did was pay the deposit, okay, you got the deposit. Once you put $300 at least down on your vacation, that's when it activates. And it's not one of the last things to be paid for either. The money that goes towards it, towards your cruise. So let's say you pay the deposit. Deposit was $100, for instance. You paid $500 up front, so that includes the deposit, and there's $400 extra than that. 300 of it can go towards the vacation protection. It's activated. And now something happens, you've got it working for you. If you haven't paid enough to cover whatever that deposit or the vacation protection would be, then it hasn't been activated yet, and it wouldn't work for you. So whatever extra that is, if you can, pay for it as soon as possible. Put that at least that amount in addition to whatever the deposit is. Okay, so a deposit usually is needed. So depending on though how far out in advance you are with regards to the cruise itself. Generally, the closer you are, as you get to it, every cruise is going to be different. So I'm not going to get an exact time here. Again, I will give an example. So let's say, for example, it is January, and you are leaving in February. That is only a month. Um, the cruise will they will make you pay for the entire thing. There will be no deposit. There will not be payments. It will be you have to pay for it all up front. While you're booking it, they may allow a certain amount, and then you have within like maybe a few hours or within a day to pay the whole thing off, but it will not be a long time. You will have to pay for that in its entirety within that time frame. Now, let's say it's January and you're not going until the following January. You have a whole year. More than likely, you're going to have all the way up until maybe September or October uh, before you have to pay everything off. Really nice. If the deposit, what the deposit will do was it will, if you pay that deposit, it will lock in both the price and it will lock in your room, depending on what room you got. So let's go back to that $500 um, example. That's for an interior room, $500 on the bottom deck. If you get it, and everything all included is going to be $2,000, and the deposit for everything is going to be $100. Okay, cool. You pay $100. That's not very much, right? Sometimes they have reduced deposits as a thing because a lot of times it's going to be, in general, a percentage of it. So maybe 200, 250 a person, whatever. It's going to be a decent amount. But they may have some sort of promotion where the deposit is less or half off or whatever, or maybe $100 deposit or $50 deposit. It varies. Um, cool. Take advantage of it if you need to. If you're paying for everything up front, then it doesn't matter. But if you're gonna pay this off in payments or in installments, or then yeah, you can hold everything for whatever the deposit is. So if the deposit's 100, you put down 100. That room and that rate is locked in. That will not go up on you unless you just don't pay it. But as long as everything is paid off, you will not lose that room. You will not lose that price. So in January, you put down $100, you book this cruise, you've got 1,900 more to go, and you've got months to do it. Uh, from there, let's say you look in, a month later, you decide to look again. Now that price is gone. Now it's $800 a person for that exact same cruise, that exact same type of room that you got. Guess what? You don't have to pay $800. You've locked yourself into $500. And as time goes on, if it continues to go up because they're selling out and the prices are going up and it goes all the way up to $1,000 a person, guess what? You don't have to pay that. You are locked in at $500. Again, as long as you pay it off by whatever the final payment date is. If by final payment day you did not pay off everything, you've lost it, right? And they may allow you to use that money to rebook it again if it's available. And if it is, whatever that current price is, now if that current price is up to $1,000 a person, guess what price you're going to be paying? Now you're paying $1,000 a person. But if you've locked it, that's why I'm saying do it as early as possible because it's always usually the it's usually the cheapest, the earliest out. Those deals that we talked about, those aren't guarantees. They're not always guaranteed deals that you'll be able to find them. So if you get it locked in ahead of time, it's going to be the cheapest. As time goes on, it'll just go up. Now sometimes, sure, there are things that may happen. There may be a promotion. Um, there may be a special running, whatever, and you do see it a little lower than what you paid. What? Now it's 400. What happened? I paid, excuse me, I paid 500. Depending on the offer that you went with. And within these offers, there's a lot of fine print. You don't feel like reading it? I get it. That's what travel agents are for. That's one of the reasons we're here to help you, right? When I was working directly for Carnival, I spent a lot of time looking at these offers and trying to find the best one because it can be overwhelming and time is of the essence for you. And you only have so much time to dedicate towards researching things. Um, so depending on the offer that you get, there might be a price protection type of thing where it's like, okay, you spent 500, it went down to 4. What happened? Can I get it? Yes. And they'll either knock it off, refund it, whatever. They may give it to you in a credit if you've already spent it. If you haven't paid for it all, they might just lower it and you just, now you're paying 1,800 as opposed to 2,000. Or if you've already spent, you paid for it all up front, they may give you a $200 credit or something to that effect. So that hopefully explains the deposit part of it. And that's all kind of the required thing, right? The cruise fare, taxes, fees, and port charges, gratuities. The vacation protection can be paid for up front. Again, that's not the required thing, but that can be paid for up front and activated. Highly recommended. Okay, so we've talked about all that. So you said, all right, I got $2,000 here. We spent all $2,000. I am going on this cruise. I'm going to enjoy it. Great. You can literally go on there and not spend another dime if you want to. I have done that. I have literally done that before. I have gone on a cruise and not spent a dime on it. However, everyone's different. Everyone enjoys different things, and there are plenty of things to be enjoyed on a cruise that is at no cost. Entertainment, the food, awesome, right? But there are things that can be enjoyed that do cost things. So we'll get into that. One of the things, and I hear this a lot, the drink package. They want to be able to enjoy the drink package. Every cruise line offers it. I mean, alcohol is a big selling thing just in general. Go to any sports game. Alcohol is a big thing. A cruise ship is no different. People enjoy drinking their drinks, right? Wine, beer, spirits, whatever it is. Um, and it doesn't have to always be alcohol. Uh, Again, I'm from Michigan. I say pop. Where you're from, you might say soda, or you might say Coke. But soft drinks, specialty coffees. I mean, there's a variety of beverages on a ship. Some of it are free, but others do cost things. You can do it one of two ways. You can pay for a drink package, which could be all you can drink pop, soda, Coke, whatever, soft drinks, or it could be the alcohol package. The alcohol package, again, might vary from cruise line to cruise line. It might consist of something like 15 cruises within a calendar day, or 15 drinks within a calendar day, and you got to wait a certain amount of time between each drink. That could be one of the things. Those things are not required. Again, these are all optional. But if you do decide to get a drink or the drink package, that it will be an additional cost. You can get a drink package ahead of time. And generally, if you do get things ahead of time, it does cost a little less than when you go on the ship. For instance, again, this is for instance, maybe a drink package might cost you, uh, again, this is just an example, let's say $50 a person per day. So that's an additional $100 for you and your other person who's going to be with you. And with drink, a lot of times with alcohol, they'll want you to have both people taking it, doing it because they don't want to have one and then give they get the drink and give it to the other person. um, some cruises might be okay with you not. Maybe just one person can get in the cabin. But others they want both person people. Anyways, let's say it's $50 for each person per day. So there's an additional 100. You times that by 5 days. There's an additional $500. You can do it. Or that might be the price if you do it ahead of time. Or you might go on the ship, and on the ship you sign up for the exact same thing, but now it's $60 a person per day. You know, and now you're paying that much more. Um, when it comes to individual drinks, it's not the case. You can't order individual drinks ahead of time. You might get it, but so you may not feel like spending an additional $500 or $600 or however much it'll be. You don't know if you're going to drink that much. You're not a heavy drinker. I'll be honest, I'm not a heavy drinker. Um, so you may just be like, you know what? I just want to go on there and maybe once a day I'll get a daiquiri or a pina colada or a whiskey sour or something, whatever, a beer. You can do it individually. Individually is just going to probably be like anywhere between 7, 10, $15, depending on what the drink is. And sometimes they'll do even specials like, oh, today, for only $4, we're doing this margarita. It depends. But you can do it individually when you get on the ship, as opposed to, you can't do individual drinks ahead of time. But the drink packages, yes, you can do that ahead of time. And if you do decide you want a drink package, I would encourage doing it before the cruise. Pay for it before. That way you're saving yourself a little money than doing it when you get on the cruise. So that's drinks, and sometimes that might even come in effect some of the other things I'll mention, such as fine dining. Usually, free food on a cruise is there. It's plentiful. It's delicious, but there are other dining options too. Some are at no cost, and then some are. Usually, there's going to be like a steakhouse. Sometimes they might have a sushi place, maybe an Italian restaurant. There could be other options that are absolutely phenomenal and delicious, but it's going to cost a little bit more to do it. You're paying for that extra experience, that higher quality of food. Although the other food is not bad quality, not saying that, but a Wagyu steak is going to be a little bit more quality than maybe the pot roast at the buffet, right? So if you want to do fine dining, again, that would cost a little bit more. You can pay for it ahead of time, get your reservations ahead of time. There's another thing that a lot of times they have with like, eating with the captain or the chef's table. Those cost a little bit more, but that's an experience. You're getting this fine food along with, whoever maybe, sailing the ship or captain, or the head chef. You're getting an experience with it. Um, I've never, and I've not done that yet. I've heard many good things about it. I haven't had a chance to do it. And maybe one day I will. I actually, maybe based on what you've listened to my podcast so far, I for all the upfront stuff that I go through and pay that off, once I get on it, I don't feel like spending a whole lot of money after that. I mean, I will, but if there's plenty of food for free, I'm taking advantage of that. But that's just me. Everyone's different. So there's fine dining, there's the drinks. Uh, let's say you want to get a souvenir. They've got souvenir shops. They have art galleries. I'm not an art guy, so I've never bought a picture or any type of art on a ship, never once. But they have it there, and you can get it. And I think they even have ways to be able to ship it out to you, so it's not like you got to try to lug it off the ship yourself. Um, and then sometimes they'll have things to do on the ship. So again, some are free, like there's mini golf. There might be the pool, right? You don't have to pay for that. Other things they might have you, maybe they have a pool table, and it costs you a couple bucks. I was on MSC and they had VR racing. They had virtual reality. Uh, I don't know. You're in a theater and shooting robots or something like that. Um, I had some clients. They went on Royal Caribbean. They were in Alaska, and there was like this big round ball thing that goes up high, and it's like a sky view thing, and that costs a little extra. Stuff like that. So there might be some things on the ship that will cost you extra. Again, they're not required. You don't have to do it, but if you want to, there's that too. And then when you go to ports, wherever you're going, um, excursions. If you want to take an excursion, generally that's going to cost you extra too. If you do it through the cruise line, great. That usually will cost you a little bit more, but you have the peace of mind knowing that you will get back to the ship. They will not leave without you. If you go out on your own and do an excursion from one of the local vendors, you can do that. They probably will be a little cheaper, but there's no guarantee that you'll get back on time. I mean, it's rare, but it can happen. And so, for peace of mind, if you want it, book it through the ship. If you feel like you want to save some money, go book it locally. Again, those are all extra stuff that it can be part of it. So I say that to you because let's say your budget was $2,000, and based on the cruise fare, the taxes, port charges, and fees, the gratuities, all that came to $2,000. And let's say vacation protection came to $2,000. That's all we had for the trip. Okay, well, you can still have a good time. You can still enjoy yourself. Just you might not have an extra for that. But let's say your budget is $2,500. Well, now you have $500 to play with regards to the drinks, the excursions, the fine dining. If you want to, you can do it with that. Um, so I want to again this was to be informative for you when it comes to how to budget to go on vacation. I talk about cruises a lot. It is my niche. This is what I specialize in is cruises, and I want to be able to help you to know what you're spending your money on, where the money is going, how this is being divided. If you bank up, let's say $3,000 for a vacation, and you think, okay. Well, I hear cruises is a good thing to go. Jason talks about them all the time. This is his specialty. Well, what am I paying for? This is it. And then just and then outside of the cruise, so that's all the cruise itself. Let's say it's Monday to Friday, 5 days, that $500, Monday to Friday. There's your cruise. Um, Depending on where you live, you might have some other extra things to think about too. I live in Michigan. No cruises come out of Michigan, and we might have some smaller thing like on Detroit River or something, but that's not what I'm referring to. When it comes to being out in the ocean or the sea, that's not here. It's not in Michigan. Um, so depending on where you live, you might have some expenses to get to it. For me, I have to get to Florida, or I have to get to wherever the coast is. Might be on the West Coast, might be on the East Coast. Generally, the things I've gone out of are Florida. I've gone out of Texas a couple times. I have to get to those places. So whether I'm driving or flying, that's an additional expense for me and my wife. Once I get there, if I have someone to stay with, cool. But if you don't have someone to stay with, you might, if you go in day of, you're welcome to do that. That is a gamble, but you can do it. Like I said, something could happen, a flat tire, a flight delay, whatever. If you choose to go day of, that is a gamble that you take. But if you do it ahead of time, day ahead of time, or 2 days ahead of time, you give yourself enough time to get there to make sure you're there, you don't miss it. But if you get there, you have to stay someplace, right? So if you have someone to stay with, cool. If not, you might have to get a hotel. There's and after, depending on when your flight is. If you stay another day or two, uh, wherever you're going out of. So those could be extra expenses too. And then while you're there, let's say a day or two at a time, are you getting around a certain way? Are you going to just stay at the hotel? Maybe you need to rent a car. Maybe you need to Uber. You need a shuttle from the airport to the hotel, or the airport to the cruise ship itself. Um, those are all things that you have to think about too. Now, if you live in Florida, if you live in Texas, or you live someplace where the cruise ship is close by, then awesome. You probably don't have to need to think about as many things. The only thing maybe you might need to think about at that point is like if you drive to the ship and take your car, you may have to think about how much you're going to spend in regards to parking. Um, Last time, back when we did December 2023, we went on Carnival. There's five of us. We took a car and we parked there. I think it was maybe 100 something bucks to park for that week, or 5 days, whatever it was. Um, so just keep that in mind too. Or even if you are flying in from someplace and you're renting a car and you're gonna park there for the cruise. Parking there is going to be an expense too. So I'm not going to continue to add on to the scenario as regards. I think I've done it enough. Let's say $2,000 is your cruise, but if you're like me, I have to continue to add on to it. So just be aware of that. I'm not going to continue to go on with the scenario, but just think of all that when it comes to budgeting. So all vacations are going to cost an amount of money, right? And how you do your vacation. Some people love all inclusive. Some people like to go backpacking in the mountains, or everyone's got a different thing that they want to do. I know my specialty is cruises. That's what I love. That's what I encourage. That's what I mainly sell. But there's all kinds of things. But whatever it is, it's all going to come at a cost. And if when you add up costs, uh, it adds up. It's very hard, especially nowadays with inflation and everything. It's hard to do a vacation for, let's say, a few $100s. That's just probably pretty unreasonable. Um, so even if you were to go on a land cruise, you got to spend a hotel, stay a night at a hotel. That's going to cost you $100, $200 a night. If you're at a resort, same thing, maybe more, a few $100s a night, whatever. Airline ticket, all of it is all part of it. So this is since this is my expertise, this is what I wanted to share with you. One of the reasons I love it is because a lot of things are wrapped into it. I don't have to worry about a hotel. I don't have to worry about food, and I don't have to worry about getting to different destinations. It's all part of it. It's all part of the package. That's why I love cruising. One of the main reasons. So you know, that's why to me it's worth the money. And generally, I feel like you're getting a lot of bang for your buck. If I'm going to spend, let's say, $2,000 on a trip, I feel like I'm definitely getting my money's worth with it. So hopefully, with all this information now, hopefully this will give you a better idea of the costs involved when it comes to going on a cruise. And hopefully you decide to do it. You decide it's worth it to you. I know many people are like me that they do love cruising. And so, it's something I always highly recommend, and hopefully you'll like it too. And if it's the case, let me know, and I'll be happy to help you find one that hopefully is within your budget and it'll be something that you enjoy doing. Reach out to me at j.paradise.travels@gmail.com. That is my email. You can reach out to me that way. You could also look me up on Facebook or Instagram at Jay's Paradise Travels. That is Jays. There is no apostrophe in that. Jay's Paradise Travels. Instagram, Facebook, you can look me up and reach out to me that way if you like, whichever way. Or I guess you could even technically leave a comment and I'll probably see it if that's something that you like too. But, anyways, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I hope you learned something from it. I hope it was informative to you and hope it whetted your appetite to go on a cruise. I didn't talk specifically a lot of fun things about it. It was more informative, more educational, but hopefully it still kind of maybe whet your appetite and made you, think about wanting to go on a cruise. Hopefully you do. And if you do, reach out to me. And please, as regards this episode, please like it, rate it, subscribe to the channel, share it with other people, all that good stuff that podcasters need in order to keep their podcast going as we try to build an audience and try to make it work. Definitely need your help with that. So please like, rate, subscribe, 5-star review, share, all that good stuff. Please do it. Anyways, thanks again for listening, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye bye.